the next couple of minutes, but we will continue to keep a really close eye on these storms just in case we get another severe thunderstorm warning. We are all here monitoring these storms, making sure everyone is staying safe out there. I know I'm going to be here all evening. Dana Money is also here, and we even have a surprise visitor. Our next chief meteorologist, David, is also here keeping a close eye on these storms. So know that we are doing everything that we can to inform the public in case we do happen to see catastrophic impacts from some of these storms. So 403, Winesap is expected to get these torrential downpours, stronger thunderstorms. 4:09 p.m., Munfordville. 4:14 p.m., Hardyville. 4:20 p.m., Wickerville. And 4:29 p.m., Greensburg. So these storms will approach those areas that I just mentioned within the next 30 minutes or so. So really not a lot of time to prepare. And I know this is happening not at the best time. This is right when folks are getting off of work, picking up the kids from school. I know how much of a hassle that can be. Just make sure you're trying to prepare as best as possible. I know some things can be out of your control sometimes, but at least we're trying to give everyone a heads up here. Very heavy rainfall. You can see if you live in parts of Sand Hill, Bowling Green, Woodburn, Scottsville is about to get these really torrential downpours. Here's another storm track though, 4:08 p.m., Red Cross. If you live near Stovall, 4:12 p.m., closer to 4:20, Glasgow is expecting them, Highsville is expecting them, and closer to 4:30, Wisdom is expecting them. So the good news is we're not seeing any signs of rotation. So we can let our guard down, at least for now, when it comes to that. But then we're still tracking those really intense winds. And I do want to keep emphasizing that they can be just as catastrophic as a weaker tornado. So again, just to recap, a severe thunderstorm warning is in effect for those in this yellow area. If you see this red box and it's covering right where you are or right where you live, we're seeing very intense winds. Now, the National Weather Service has told us that they are seeing 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts. This is enough to cause damage to structure. This is enough to cause damage to trees, to cause some blown debris as well. Not safe to drive in at all. We're going to see very heavy downpours combining with those strong winds. Visibility is not going to be good at all. We can pull up one of our live weather cameras that perhaps is seeing some of these more intense storms. I know we have a camera over Franklin, and while we work on getting a live look, some of these storms, we can even pull up a camera in parts of Bowling Green. We are seeing very, very intense downpours currently now. So while that loads up, again, visibility, you can't see when these storms start to arrive. Very strong winds here. I do believe that our live weather camera is a little bit frozen right now, but again, this is happening right when folks are getting off of work. This is a live look at Glasgow. Cloudy skies there. Hasn't impacted at least this area of Scottsville on the square, I believe. Not there yet, but don't let your guard down. Cloudy skies, breezy winds already taking place. I did see those winds shake around a little bit, but we will continue to see a prominent threat being those intense winds. So again, have a way to get those weather alerts. If you have a weather radio, pull it out. Find it in the garage if you have it. This is our live look right outside of WBKO Studios. You can really, really start to see how much those trees are shaking. Don't underestimate these thunderstorms, because I know that they don't sound intimidating sometimes, but they can be just as catastrophic. We can hear those garage doors shaking for us. We are in the pit of this storm currently. For those of us in Bowling Green, this storm is directly hitting us as we speak. Again, torrential downpours, strong winds, hail, not out of the question. If you can stay away from windows, just delay that commute to keep yourself safe from those strong winds, that hail threat as well. Please do so. I think we're really losing visibility here. You can see how fast those raindrops are covering our camera lens right now. They're even blowing off sideways. That's how I know it's not gravity. It's the wind, because they're blowing sideways. So again, very strong winds, even being seen over the upper levels of our atmosphere and the lower levels, obviously. But you can't even see past Russellville Road there. So that is really limiting our visibility. I do want to emphasize once again, very heavy downpours, strong winds. You're not going to be able to see a lot if you do have to commute between now and into the next couple of hours or so, especially as these storms continue to travel east of I-65, as they continue to impact our eastern counties as well. So very, very strong winds you can really see that as well. If you take a look at those trees Again, this is why we want to focus on the threat for damages to structure. If a tree falls on a structure, especially if it's a little bit older, unfortunately, we could see a lot of damage when it comes to that. Right now, though, not seeing hail, at least outside of WBKO studios, but that's definitely still a threat with these thunderstorms. So again, this is going to make for a really difficult drive. I keep saying this because it's right around that time frame when a lot of folks are getting off of work, trying to pick the kids up from school. Just be aware of the severe thunderstorm warning that we're still keeping a close eye on. The good news is you don't have to be aware of a tornado currently. There is no tornado warnings in our area currently, but we are under a tornado watch, especially for those west of Bowling Green. If you live in Madisonville, Hopkinsville, Elkton, that watch is still in effect for you guys. But this is, once again, for those of you guys that are just now tuning in, turning that TV on, oh, it does look like that tornado watch has expired. But the rest of us are still looking at that severe thunderstorm warning. For all of us, well, a severe thunderstorm watch for all of us in the yellow. And then I know we can't see that clearly, but we do have one severe thunderstorm warning currently in effect for our viewing area. So this storm is well past the western portions of Warren County. If you live west of Bowling Green, I do think that we are in the clear, at least from those warnings that we were seeing earlier. But for those of us east, that storm is still heading into those east of I-65. Not really losing power there at all either, as we are seeing those intense winds continuing. That is why these severe thunderstorm warnings have been extended. They have been issued. If you live anywhere from E-Town, Munfordville, into the eastern parts of Bowling Green, east of downtown Bowling Green, you're still going to see these strong winds, these strong downpours. Those in Scottsville as well are still seeing these strong winds. Glasgow, can't let your guard down either. I know when we pulled up that live weather camera earlier today, we didn't see any rain just yet, but as you can see, these storms are moving fast and they are dropping torrential downpours. So don't underestimate these storms. I know that I keep referring back to that tornado warning that we saw just north of our viewing area over by parts of Louisville. It's still in effect, as we can see there. This is affecting the northern portions there of Louisville. Now, if you do have friends, family, loved ones within this area, even if they're not in this red box, don't let your guard down. This area is just south and east of Greenville, and it will continue at least through 5:15 p.m. So I know Louisville is a huge area where a lot of us may have friends, a lot of us may have loved ones, acquaintances, anything of that sort. And not to mention, it's probably the busiest time of the day for people to be commuting right now. So this is really not a great sign, as many people will probably be in a car or still at work, stuck at school, anything of that sort. Hopefully they have ways to stay in a shelter or anything safer than being in a car. So currently for our viewing area, I will say we're not seeing any tornado warnings being issued, no prominent threats of rotation, no funnel clouds, no spin-ups, no isolated tornadoes, but we are seeing straight line damaging winds. So that is the criteria for a severe thunderstorm warning to be issued. We do have to see around 60-mile-per-hour winds for this storm to be considered severe. So right now we're taking a look at some of those mesonet wind gusts. Keep in mind, these are very distinct locations, so just because we're seeing a few weaker wind gusts, it doesn't mean that stronger ones are not possible. In Bowling Green, it looks like we're seeing some of those stronger winds around 38 miles per hour, 54 miles per hour are currently being seen over Franklin, okay? And I really want to talk about that because that is really enough power to knock down a tree. It's enough power to knock down a sign, as we've been seeing recently. It's enough power to cause power outages. Hundreds of us are already seeing the impacts of these really strong winds. I know they don't sound like much of a concern sometimes, but they are just as devastating, just as catastrophic. Strong winds are strong winds, whether they're from a tornado or whether they're from a strong thunderstorm, okay? You will not want to let your guard down when it comes to this. Good way to stay weather aware. If you lose power and you can't watch us anymore, go ahead, download that WBKO First Alert Weather app. It'll issue direct watches, warnings pertaining to your specific location, whether you're in Bowling Green, whether you're in Franklin, whether you're in Hopkinsville, Albany, Columbia. It doesn't matter where you are. You can just scan that QR code. It'll take you directly to that app right now. So once again, we are emphasizing the effect of those really strong winds. Right now, there's no prominent threat of rotation, but we are seeing straight line damaging winds. Already seeing some reports of downed trees as well. So there's already damage and there's more to come. And we already saw damage from storms just a week ago on Friday when we saw those really intense winds, a couple of tornado warnings as well, and several thunderstorm warnings. So areas that have already seen damage are probably going to see more because of the really powerful wind threat that we're still seeing as we progress through the afternoon and the evening as well. So there's another look at that radar. Very heavy downpours now stretching over Louisville, heading into Munfordville, heading south into Bowling Green, now affecting most of Scottsville. So if you live in Scottsville, yes, the storm is currently starting to impact you all as well. Torrential down. Oh, there's a look at those storm reports. We are seeing a lot of wind damage as it loads up there, down trees to our north there, but very, very intense winds there. Most of what we're seeing currently is those winds around 60 miles per hour near Ohio County there. And all of those wind icons just exemplify winds around or greater than 60 miles per hour. So there's an updated look at some of that storm damage report. Highway 81 closed in Daviess County due to power lines and poles on the highway. So we're already seeing blocked roadways because of downed power lines. So it's not just that wind threat, it's also going to be that flooding threat. If you know of an area that easily floods when we see really heavy, intense rain like this, we're probably going to see it again. I wouldn't be surprised if we see closed roads because of flooded roadways. So our western areas really got it. It's going to continue for us, folks. Like it's really going to impact us in the same ways. So again, that severe thunderstorm warning in effect for those in E-Town, into Munfordville, into Glasgow, the eastern portions of Bowling Green, into Scottsville, now heading into Tompkinsville. The prominent or the most intense threat that we're going to see here is those intense to catastrophic winds that will lead to damage. Again, we already saw down power lines, which is really dangerous as well. So power outages are in our most prominent threat for us today. 4:22 p.m. We're expecting these storms in Oil City, 4:27, Glasgow, 4:31, Lecta, 4:35, Slick Rock, and these storms are expected in Wisdom around 4:41 p.m. So I will say, for those of us that are just now tuning in, the good news is not seeing any prominent threats of a spin up here, but we will see really strong winds. Heavy rainfall right now being seen over parts of Scottsville. If you live in Settle, if you live in Mount Ariel, those along I-65 as well are starting to see the heaviest downpours from this system. So there's another look at that timing of these storms. 4:14 is expected in the heart of Scottsville. 4:25 is expected, or Walnut Hill is expecting these storms around 4:25. Tracy, closer to 4:30. If you live in Lamb, these thunderstorms are going to get there around 4:36. Then as we head closer to Jeffrey, these storms will happen closer to 4:40. So again, very intense storms here. Don't let your guard down. Just because they're thunderstorms doesn't mean they're any less intense than storms being seen to our north. So currently, very heavy downpours over Ponderosa, Winesap, Straw. We're going to see a lot of flooded roadways out of this. We're going to see lower visibility out of this because it is raining intensely over most of our viewing area currently. We're putting another storm tracker on the system. So for those of us that live east of parts of Munfordville, we're expecting those around 4:19 and still expecting these storms to continue traveling eastward. So we'll still see the impacts through 5 p.m., 6 p.m., 7 p.m. I'm not going to say it's an all-out washout, but we will need to keep a close eye on these storms even through the next several hours as they affect our eastern counties as well. Closer to 4:19, once again, Munfordville, 4:27, Hardyville, 4:35, Eve, 4:41, Webbs, 4:42, Russell Creek School. So if you could just delay that commute if you are heading out to dinner or anything of that sort, it would be a good idea, because just because these are thunderstorm warnings and not tornado warnings, it doesn't mean we won't see similar impacts, especially from those really intense winds. As we saw earlier, Franklin was seeing 54-mile-per-hour wind gusts, so that's enough to knock down a tree. That's enough to knock down a weak power line. That is enough to do a lot of damage when it comes to older structures, especially, and driving as well. It's really not going to be safe when it comes to these heavy downpours, torrential downpours. If we can get a look at some of these rainfall rates, just to see how heavy these storms are dropping rain, that would be helpful. But also, again, combining in that wind threat, we're going to continue to see lower visibility. It does look like that severe thunderstorm warning has expired. It is now 4:15 p.m. So we currently have no active severe thunderstorm warnings. Oh, never mind. That severe thunderstorm warning is still in effect there. It just got turned off there for a second. We still have that Munfordville, Glasgow, Eastern Bowling Green, Scottsville, Franklin, under this severe thunderstorm warning. So let me look at more details from the National Weather Service, just to keep a closer eye on these details. Outside of the severe thunderstorm warning, we're still looking at a wind advisory for our entire viewing area. Now, this has been extended until 8 p.m. Eastern time because of these intense winds. Even if you're not seeing these severe thunderstorms specifically where you are, you're still going to get a taste of those powerful winds, gusting around 30 to 40 miles per hour, and they're going to be even stronger within some of these stronger thunderstorms, these severe thunderstorms as well. We did just get word from the National Weather Service in Louisville that we are still looking at the severe thunderstorm warning until 4:45 p.m. Central Time. So again, stay weather aware for those shaded areas, at least for the next 30 minutes or so, it looks like. But we are seeing very heavy rainfall, a lot of closed roads as well, winds around 50 miles per hour outside of severe thunderstorms. So everyone just needs to stay weather aware. Destructive winds are being seen over our entire viewing area currently. If you live in parts of LaRue, Hardin, Hart, Edmondson, Barron, Warren, Allen, and Simpson County, you're in the bulk of this storm's path right now. The most intense parts of this storm are currently in your county. So we are seeing large hail, as large as an inch right now, with some of these thunderstorms. It is moving at it is moving at 45 miles per hour, but it has 60 mile per hour wind gusts. So you can expect damage to roofs, sidings, and trees as well, as we continue to monitor some of these storms. So once again, the severe thunderstorm warning in effect for those in LaRue, Hardin, Grayson, Hart, Edmondson, Warren, Barron, Allen, and Simpson County. Do not let your guard down. Wind is wind, whether it's from a tornado or whether it's from a thunderstorm. We are seeing intense 60 mile per hour winds with some of these thunderstorms, so we really just want to keep everyone alert and aware of these storms in case we do see a more powerful damage from some of these storms. I don't think that power outages will be out of the question. If you usually see some of these power outages when it comes to strong storms like this, you better prepare for it once again as we head into today.
Yes, we are tracking power outages in the area. Warren, RECC, right now seeing the most. There are over 800 customers without power in Grayson County. Over in Butler County, we're looking at just shy of 300 outages. Warren RECC did send out a tweet about 20 minutes ago that they have crews out working to restore power as soon as possible. Some of these outages are centered around, the bulk of them up in Grayson County is centered around Nolan Lake. We're seeing quite a couple hundred outages in that area. We did see some outages reported in Bowling Green, but those were restored pretty quickly by Warren RECC. And then, of course, up near Beaver Dam, we're still seeing some outages there. Both Warren RECC and Kentucky Utilities reporting a few outages there. With Kentucky Utilities, we are looking at 900 customers without power right now. They say in their outage map that they are working on restoring that power, and then we're seeing another cluster of outages between Central City and Rockport. So Warren RECC, Kentucky Utilities, both reporting outages now. We're also keeping an eye on Tri-County Electric, which services the Scottsville area, Monroe County. We are seeing about 300 outages along Port Oliver Road near Barren River Lake. We're seeing a little cluster of outages there. And then for Farmers RECC, we're keeping an eye, not many outages, just a handful of 26 outages northwest of Munfordville. So we're keeping an eye on all the utility services that keep our power on in the area. Right now, again, Warren RECC reporting the most with 800 outages in Grayson County, just shy of 300 outages in Butler County. Edmondson, Warren, Logan, and Ohio County all reporting some outages as well, but the bulk right now seems to be in the Grayson County area.
So I think this is, thank you for that update, by the way. Yes, power outage is not out of the question. This is our live weather camera, I believe, over Barren River Lake. Oh no, the Narrows. As you can see, very, very low visibility there. Torrential downpours. I mean, this is exactly what it probably looks like for those of us in that severe thunderstorm warning. You really, really can't drive in conditions like these. So much less drive a boat in conditions like these. We are really seeing very low visibility, very strong winds there. I know I keep saying this, but those raindrops blowing horizontally, that is not gravity working. That is those winds. So if that really goes to show just how powerful these storms are, even though they're just thunderstorms. The good news is we're not seeing any quick spin ups or anything of that sort. But we can't rule out the threat for very similar damage that a weaker tornado would cause. So especially because these severe thunderstorm warnings are issued over a larger area, that risk can be just as impactful when we're talking about thunderstorm warnings and tornado warnings as well. So right now, no tornado warnings in effect, no rotation is currently being seen, but it is really just pouring cats and dogs out there. We are starting to see those torrential downpours pushing eastward. So if you live east of Bowling Green, anywhere along I-65, I think that is the current track of those storms. Here's some of those rainfall rates over the past 12 hours. We've seen about 1.1 inches, anywhere from about half of an inch up to 1.5 inches of rain over a large portion of our viewing area. So flooded roadways are likely. If you know the saying, turn around, don't drown, that's still going to be the case for today. I know we can't see beneath some of those murky waters. Please, please, please do not drive on flooded roadways. Doesn't matter if you drive a taller or a bigger vehicle, it is not going to be safe out there. You don't know what is in those waters as well. It could be a down power line. It could be a pointy structure, anything. It's just not safe for us to drive on those roadways, not to mention the debris that could be in some of those roads, some of those areas as well. Especially if you live in a flood-prone area, a low-lying area, we're probably going to see some flooding there. So I know there's a lot of talk around Fairview Plaza. It's probably going to get flooded again today. Anywhere that is flood-prone, it's going to be a concern when it comes to these torrential downpours. So once again, this severe thunderstorm warning currently in effect for all of us here in the yellow. The main concern here is going to be those prominent winds. I know this is just a thunderstorm, but it is going to be just as impactful when we're talking about these strong winds as a weaker tornado. So again, we will see a few power outages out of this. So if you haven't seen one, charge your phone. Go ahead and get the batteries. Get the flashlight. Go ahead and grab those candles as well. I know we have crews prepared though, and they are working actively to fix some of those power outages to ensure that we don't get stuck without power for long periods of time. So they're also some of the heroes that we're going to be thanking for today. But 4:25 p.m., this storm is expected closer to Shady Grove School. 4:34 p.m., Holland is expecting these storms. Fountain Run is expecting these storms closer to 4:42. Lamb is expecting these storms closer to 4:47. Jeffrey, you can expect these storms around 4:51. So very heavy downpours. Again, this is not a great time for these storms to be happening because a lot of folks are on the road in their car. Not necessarily the safest place when it comes to these heavy downpours and strong winds. But the good news is that we're not seeing any tornado warnings. Now, I did mention earlier we are, and we'll take a look at that here in just a moment, but there is a tornado warning closer to Louisville. So if you have folks that live in Louisville, close to Louisville, especially west of Louisville, try to give them a heads up, as we're still, now east of Louisville is exactly where we're seeing that tornado warning. So this is a largely populated area. Newcastle is in this tornado warning. LaGrange, I think it looks like. I'm from Nashville, so I'm not really familiar with some of these cities, but again, this tornado warning is going to be in effect from until 5:45 p.m. Eastern time. We're going to see a large, or at least they've already seen a prominent rotation in that area as well. So families, loved ones, friends, they're currently under this threat. And if you remember earlier when we were showing the SPC outlooks, they were also looking at a low threat for an isolated tornado. So we were in that same area as well. So we're not considered to be in the clear, especially those along and east of I-65 for that tornado threat. I do think that we are still going to be seeing continuous severe thunderstorm warnings into the next several hours as storms continue to push east. Those along that frontal boundary, those along the edge of those storms that we were seeing earlier, that is where the most intense thunderstorms are expected to be. This is right where we're seeing those thunderstorm warnings. Now the atmosphere is losing power as we speak. Now those along the edge, don't let your guard down. But because these storms have already affected our western areas, we do think that there is less power for another warning, more intense winds to occur. So that is the good news. I do think that we can kind of start to relax a little bit for those west of Bowling Green. If you're along this really narrow rectangle, we're going to see very, very intense winds. Now, these storms are really hitting Munfordville hard right now. Glasgow is starting to get poured on right now, especially downtown Glasgow. Maybe we can look at what it looks like on the square as those storms are expected to hit the heart of Glasgow as we speak. Settle, Scottsville is seeing these really heavy downpours currently. Again, intense shades of red. If you remember that camera that we just showed a few minutes ago over, okay, there's a look at Glasgow. Cloudy skies, it looks like storms haven't hit the square there yet. But we will start to see those really intense downpours, those really intense winds as well into the next several hours. Here's a look at Elkton though. Wet roads, ponding, not out of the question. So even though maybe some of these storms are past your area, ponding, flooded roadways, again, not out of the question. Remember to turn around, don't drown when it comes to some of these storms. You can't see beneath some of those flooded roadways, murky waters. You don't know what kind of debris lays underneath those waters as well. So it's not safe to walk. It's not safe to drive within conditions like these. So I really just want to emphasize that because I know that people are getting off of work right now. People are picking up their kids from school. If you can take an alternate route and not drive over even a roadway that's getting flooded slowly, it's still not considered to be safe. You really don't know what is in there, especially when the water starts mixing in with the dirt and then you create mud and then you really can't see anything. But once again, here's a look at those severe thunderstorm warnings. Everyone in that yellow rectangle needs to be weather aware as we are seeing prominent intense winds. This has been reported by the National Weather Service that we are seeing winds around 60 miles per hour. So try to stay away from commuting. If you haven't already, try to stay away from windows. If you're in a car and you can go inside, go ahead, go inside and try not to be outside, especially because we are seeing some lightning, various strikes of lightning from cloud to ground currently as we speak. I think as we get closer to our sunset hour, it's going to be a light show, but this is a current look at our storm tracks. Closer to 434, Slick Rock, 440. These storms are expected for Wisdom. Edmonton is going to see these storms around 4:48 p.m. Gaxon closer to 4:51.
It's Gascon, not Gaston.
Now is going to see these storms around 4:57 p.m. So really need everyone to have a way to get these weather alerts as well.
Not Gaston, it's Gascon.
We can see those few strikes of lightning. Not out of the question for us to see down power lines, flooded roadways. Turn around, don't drown. As soon as you hear thunder, go indoors. I know we also have a lot of farmers in our area as well. So this is also a concern when it comes to that. But here's another look at those storm
I know some
tracks.
people down there.
As we head closer to 436, Lloyd can see these storms. White Rose is going to see some of these stronger thunderstorms with intense winds and heavy downpours around 545. Saloma will expect these storms around 549. Campbellsville, 553. And Elkhorn is
Wings, barbecue, sandwiches, and more. Open daily for lunch, happy hour, and dinner. Make Lost River Pizza your local spot for great food, great beer, and good times.
We're dealing with strong winds. We're dealing with flooded roadways and just the aftermath of those powerful winds. So if we take a look at that severe thunderstorm warning, once again, those east of I-65, still seeing the threat there for some of those stronger winds to continue to happen. But yes, for all of us there in that yellow rectangle, very, very powerful winds. I mean, we already have seen several power outages. We've seen down trees, even down power lines as well. So it's not just about flooded roadways. It's also about roadways that have closed because they are blocked. So if you can take an alternate route, I know it's right around, it's 5 o'clock right now, right on the dot. If you know of a location that usually gets flooded when it comes to storms like this, go ahead and try to plan a different route. It's better to play it safe for today as we are seeing really torrential downpours. And especially when it comes to that, we are concerned with ponding, hydroplaning, anything of that sort. But once again, as far as our severe thunderstorm warned locations go, if you live in this yellow rectangle, we are seeing 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts. So if you can just stay indoors, stay at work, at least until the next 15 minutes or so, we really, really advise that, because this is the leading edge of this storm, otherwise known as a squall line, which is also classified as a strong line of thunderstorms. So this is where the most intense parts of this thunderstorm is. It's right over those in the yellow there. I think we just got an update there, but just to make sure everyone knows, we're still staying live at least until this severe thunderstorm warning expires. But we have to watch out for our eastern residents, our eastern viewers as well. If we can take a closer look at some of the communities to our east being impacted, just so we can name off a few communities, a few locations, to make sure they're aware, make sure they are in the know of what is going on. Temple Hill, currently getting the most intense, the most powerful portions of the storm currently. Summer Grove, Summer Shade, this storm is headed right towards you.
Summer Shade, not Summer Grove.
Here's an updated look at those storm tracks. Jeffrey is going to get those storms around 509. Emberton, closer to 513. Forkton, around 519. If you live in Tompkinsville, these storms are headed towards you around 5:22 p.m. Tompkinsville, Monroe County is expected, or so the heart of Tompkinsville, Monroe County is expecting these storms around 5:20.
Wow, she got Forkton right.
So when it comes to these storms, the real threat here is really going to be intense winds. And they're really gusting around 60 miles per hour, according to the National Weather Service, so a really credible source there. Make sure you're staying inside at least until 6:15 p.m. Eastern time. Notice that time difference there. We're seeing things in Central time, but those who are east are seeing these warnings in Eastern time. So just take a note of that. But 5:06 p.m., Summer Shade, Beaumont, 5:10, Willow Shade is expecting these storms around 5:14 p.m. Dubray, 5:18. Sugar Grove School is expecting these storms around 5:30. So if you're in those locations that I just mentioned, you still have time to plan ahead. If you're planning on getting groceries at some point this evening or at some point within the next several minutes, try to refrain from that, at least for now. If you still have power, go ahead, charge your phone. Get those batteries, find them. I know sometimes they can be scattered around the house. Find those scattered batteries just in case. We really need everyone to play it safe when it comes to these storms. Here's an updated look at some of those storm tracks though. Again, these storms are traveling eastward. We'll get that back up here in just a second. But Center is starting to get some of these storms as well. Again, these are parts of Edmonton that we're talking about now. So again, those west of I-65, we can relax. If you were planning on getting groceries, if you were planning on picking up the kids, I do think that that tornado threat has diminished, that thunderstorm threat has diminished. And we'll still see strong winds, but not for severe weather criteria. Which, by the way, they have to be around 60 miles per hour for a severe thunderstorm warning to be issued. And we're seeing them right now, at least a very good chance for them, for those of us in the yellow rectangle there. Edmonton is expecting these storms around 5:11 p.m. Gascon around 5:15.
Gascon.
Weed, we'll see these storms closer to 5:23. So these are smaller communities that we're talking about here. Spartan items. I know a common theme of a storm we got a few weeks ago was blown trash bins, and that it can be a hassle to clean up, especially if it's knocked over and all of the trash gets blown over as well. But okay, we're back here and we're watching these storms, especially east. So currently, if you're in parts of Danville, Columbia, even Munfordville, still getting some of those downpours as well. But our main concern is over this yellow rectangle. We're seeing very intense winds. This has been reported by the National Weather Service to be around 60 miles per hour. So we really advise everyone, if you live inside this yellow triangle, we really want to advise everyone to stay inside at least for the next 5 minutes or so. That's the good news. We have to get through 5 more minutes of these storms, and then I do think that most of us will be in the clear, at least tornado-wise, especially for those east of I-65. We're just bunkering down for you guys, making sure that nothing happens when it comes to these thunderstorm warnings and these tornado watches as well. So we're still concerned with that. But again, these communities are being impacted, include parts of Tompkinsville. You're starting to get some of the more heavy rain as well. I think parts of western Glasgow, you're in the clear now. If you live on the eastern side of Barron County, you're starting to see some of this really torrential downpour activity going on. If we take a closer look at some of the communities right now, if you live anywhere in this red area, so that includes parts of Knoblik, Edmonton, Slick Rock, Keno, Summer Shade, very, very intense rain here, very strong winds. This has been confirmed by the National Weather Service that we are seeing 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts. So again, this may not sound dangerous, but it really, really is. You can compare it to the damage of a weaker tornado. Strong winds are strong winds no matter where they're coming from. So don't let your guard down. Just because these are just thunderstorms doesn't mean that we won't see just as much of an impact that a weaker tornado may cause. So here's Pittman. They're starting to see some of that heavier rainfall. If you live near Pleasant Union Church, for those communities, the heavier rain is now headed towards you all. But right now we're seeing moderate rain. You can see the heavier rain is going to travel eastward and really pour down over that area. If you live in Whitewood, you're getting a little taste of some of those heavier rainfall rates, but you're still going to get more of it just off to our west. Again, these storms are traveling eastward. Wrights, if you're in Wrights, if you're in Campbellsville, you are still seeing the lighter end of this storm, but the leading edge of the more intense storms are currently still tracking right towards you guys. So if you're in Campbellsville, heavy rain, strong winds, hail is headed your way as we speak. It's not too late to bring in the trash bin, to bring in any loose items, any lightweight decor. It's not too late to bring it inside right now. So you're still in the clear, at least from those heavier showers, but we're still seeing very, very strong winds. So right now, the strongest winds are being reported for everyone in this yellow box. If we take a look at our mesonet wind gust, we'll be able to get a more detailed look at some of those stronger winds, but it does look like calmer winds are expected over those counties west of I-65. Yep, very, very, at least calmer winds. I know we were seeing 50-mile-per-hour wind gusts in Franklin when we last checked. That has diminished significantly. But again, we're still keeping a close eye on those east of I-65. They're seeing anywhere between about 10 to 30 miles per, 46 miles per hour there in Columbia. So if you live near Columbia, if you have friends, family, loved ones that live in Columbia, they are seeing the power of this storm right now. So when it comes to these strong winds, I know we were just talking about those power outages. That's really going to be the main concern. That folks are going to lose power, folks are going to lose access to information, updates, anything of that sort. So I know it can get a little bit messy when it comes to some of these down power lines, power outages, anything of that sort, even down trees that can sometimes fall on roofs, cars, anything of that sort, it's not going to be safe to be in a vehicle at this moment. If you live in Campbellsville, Columbia, Edmonton, Tompkinsville, you're starting to get the more intense winds. If you're able to capture a photo safely, please feel free to share some of these storm damage reports with us at wbko.com/photos. We would love to see that and see if maybe we can share some of those updates. But 46 miles per hour in Columbia, that is significant. That is strong. That is enough to knock down a tree. That is enough to knock down a power line, especially weaker structures. Could see, there's an updated look at that, 53 miles per hour. So it looks like Columbia is getting hit the hardest right now, but Tompkinsville and Edmonton still seeing very, very strong winds. Edmonton is seeing 27 miles per hour, 29 miles per hour, nearly 30 miles per hour there in Tompkinsville, 24 miles per hour being seen over Campbellsville. And again, do not let your guard down. I know these are just winds. They're not tornadoes, but they could cause just as much damage, once again, that a weaker tornado will cause. So this is Edmonton right now. It doesn't look so eerie right now, but again, just because it looks okay doesn't mean it is okay. We could see especially older trees, weaker trees being blown over. You do not want to get caught in a situation like that, especially if you're in a vehicle. This is Burkesville right now. Overall, gloomy skies, cloudy skies, not seeing showers developing just yet, but this is a beautiful look over that area as well. Strong winds really going to be the main threat here. Looks can be deceiving, as we can see. Very, very strong winds to our east, but it actually doesn't even look that bad at all. But once again, we've seen the destructive impacts that strong winds can have. We've seen a lot of down signs, unfortunately, that have led to loss of life. We've seen down trees that have also led to loss of life. It just takes being at the wrong place at the wrong time. So we really just don't want to risk it. We want everyone to be safe. We want everyone to be aware. Just because these are winds doesn't mean they can't hurt or they can't injure, they can't take life, anything of that sort. Here's a look at Independence Bank, or one of our cameras on Independence Bank. Temperatures, they're still mild overall. Starting to see those rain showers diminishing. Earlier today, we could barely see. Visibility was not great, but currently we're starting to get an improvement. I do think Bowling Green is going to continue to see showers. The rest of us are actually going to continue to see showers. If we take a look at our radar, showers still expected after these after the frontal boundary of these storms, the leading edge of these storms passes through. We're still going to see a few heavy downpours. We're still going to see a few thunderstorms. We're still going to see lightning. We're going to hear thunder, but that severe weather threat has diminished. Now we are looking at one last thunderstorm warning that is officially out of our viewing area. At this point, all severe thunderstorm warnings have expired. We are still keeping an eye on those thunderstorms over our viewing area, but I do think that this squall line or line of strong thunderstorms has soaked up much of the energy that was necessary to create a severe warning to be issued when it comes to thunderstorms or when it comes to tornadoes. So we will probably be getting off here shortly. We want to thank everyone for staying tuned with us here. If you have any pictures of damage, please make sure you're taking the pictures safely. Don't put your life, don't put your health at risk, but please feel free to share them at wbko.com/photos. We'll make sure to share some of those on social media. But from WBKO News, this is Raquel Dominguez along with Dana Money, and we will return back to your regularly scheduled programming.
The 7-day forecast.
Meteorologist Dana Money here. Let's take a look at some of these storms that were producing severe weather earlier. Now they have kind of died off as they are exiting our viewing area. No severe thunderstorm warnings in our area. They were earlier. Some of those storm damage reports from earlier showing that we did have some winds and even a tornado out of our viewing area from earlier. Otherwise, right now we do have some severe thunderstorm watches. I expect that those will be expired here coming soon as that severe weather has moved out of our area. Otherwise, we do have some of those wind advisories that will be in effect until later tonight, and those in the green will be under that aerial flood advisory. Watch for some of that flooded roadways or just ponding on the roadways. Hydroplaning could be a problem. in those areas, as well as we head throughout the rest of the evening, as some of those areas did receive torrential rainfall from those storms that passed through the area earlier this evening. Otherwise, FutureMax shows any of those storms that remain pass through the area as we head throughout the rest of the evening, and then just a few more rain showers as we head throughout the rest of the night, but wrapping up by tomorrow morning, late morning, and then moving out by the afternoon. As your news at 6 starts now.
Now at 5, the deadline to register to vote is in just a few days. The Hot Rods opening day is less than 1 week away, and the police officers involved in the Nashville shooting speak out for the first time.
From WBKO News, local, first, now. This is WBKO News at 5.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I'm Kelly Austin, and for Jean Burke, our lead story, all over Allen County, red and green signs have popped up advocating for or against the sale of alcohol. WBKO's Derek Parm met with voters on both sides of the issue and is in studio to tell us more. Hey, Derek.
This will be the first time in 7 years that the wet-dry issue returns to the ballot in Allen County, and voters on both sides are definitely passionate about their stances. Voting for the sale say that the benefits far outweigh any negative effects, while those that are against it say that the community is fine as it is, and that alcohol has historically had a negative effect on communities that have gone wet. Rob Harrington, an advocate for the sale, says local restaurants and businesses can still see positive change from the change.
The conversation isn't even about drinking. It's about money. We want to just get some of that benefit and keep it here in Allen County where we can make it more like it used to be, have more mom and pop restaurants, stuff like that, that can stay in business during the slow times because of the margins that are on alcohol sales.
While both sides of the issue continue to advocate for their stance, a decision will be made on May 16th. Back to you, Kelly.
All right, thank you, Derek. We are still a month and a half away from the next primary election, but the deadline to register to vote is just a few days away. If you want to cast your ballot in Kentucky, you will have to do so by 4 o'clock on April 17th. That's just under 2 weeks. You can register online, by mail, or in person at your local county clerk's office. To register, you must be a U.S. and Kentucky resident for at least 28 days prior to the election, be 18 years or older by the next general election, and not be a convicted felon unless your rights have been restored through expungement, executive pardon, or executive order.
It's so important to the basis of our democracy that everyone gets out there and registers and let your voice be heard. Whatever your opinion is, whatever that be, let your voice be heard, and it's going to affect the policies in America.
To register online, get voter registration deadlines, and confirm your voter registration, you can visit govote.ky.gov. Yesterday, Governor Andy Beshear signed Senate Bill 79 into law, adding more protection to victims of domestic violence, stalking, and trafficking. The bill was introduced by the Secretary of State earlier this year. Now that it is law, the Safe at Home program will now hide victims' addresses from public records to better protect them. The Secretary of State's address confidentiality program was limited on its own, hiding victims' addresses only from the voter rolls and requiring a protective order. Senate Bill 79 will now allow victims to participate without the requirement and will hide victims' addresses off publicly available government records. Those who want to participate in the program just need to submit an application, and instead of a protective order, participants will need to sign a sworn statement.
Now, many of those storms have moved out of our area, but we will continue to see rain. But let's take a look at our almanac stats for today. We did reach that high of 86 degrees today. Wow, how nice. With that low of 73 degrees, rather warm, although we will continue to add to our precipitation totals as we go throughout the day, as we still do have some of that rain, especially in our eastern counties, as that continues to move through our area throughout the rest of the afternoon and evening. Otherwise, as we take a look throughout the area right now, We still are seeing some of that rain that we saw earlier today, and that will be the case as we head throughout the rest of the evening. You'll want to stay weather aware still, especially our far western counties. Otherwise, many of us are dealing with some of those storms moving out of our area.
All right, thank you, Dana. Well, we hope that you are hungry for peanuts and Cracker Jacks because Hot Rod's opening day is less than a week away. Although the defending South Atlantic League champs are opening their official season tomorrow against the Asheville Tourists, you can almost count on one hand the days until baseball returns to Bowling Green Ballpark. Coming off back-to-back championship seasons, fans have high hopes heading into this next season. Eric Leach says that the opening day for the Hot Rods is more than just about America's favorite pastime.
Opening day is always special, especially around this region. The Reds, for years, opened up opening day in the major league level, and the opening